Hey, before we start the show, little program technical note. It looks like I'm pretty sure I recorded my end of the show through the built-in microphone in my iMac and not my super nice $200 podcast microphone setup here. So it sounds a little tinny, but of course the content wins over very quickly my tin can voice. So Rick, as usual, just sounds perfect. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for downloading the show. Welcome. This is Garden Fork Radio, the eclectic DIY show where our mantra is done is better than perfect. Today we're talking about toilets, tree felling, blood donation, GoPro cameras, all sorts of stuff with my best friend and co-host Rick. Hello, sir.
Hey, long time no hear, my friend.
Actually, the only reason you're here is that I have a new patron on Patreon named Dean, and he said he wanted to hear more of Rick and money
thanks,
talks.
Thanks, Dad. Thanks.
I'm like, okay.
It's with the holidays and everything, and trying to get this airplane build finished, and just haven't been running down to Florida and back. Just haven't had time, but I've been watching you guys. You've had some great guests on. I saw your video on felling a leaner tree.
Yeah, that was great.
I thought it was going to be a thin tree, but it was not. It wasn't lean that way. It was just leaning over.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of it up at the house because the it's called the emerald ash borer, which is a insect from Asia, came over on a ship somehow or a container and is now killing all the ash trees in America. And they die from the top, and sometimes they go hollow inside. And whenever they fall, they seem to get hung up in other trees. So this one, it cracked in the middle. I think it might have been hit by lightning, and it literally missiled into my friend's dirt driveway. So you couldn't get around it. Is a narrow driveway in the woods. So there's like 3 feet of the trunk is in the ground. So
oh, wow.
You can't just, I'm just going to cut that and let it fall. So we did what's called a wedge cut, and we used this really cool, it's called a block and tackle or come along. And I think a lot of people are familiar with the Harbor Freight Tools version of this, which is a stranded steel cable that's around a spool, and you can move really heavy stuff, maybe 3 to 6 feet if you're lucky. This is a similar kind of ratcheting device, but the pulley is in a V style, and it basically, by friction, it clamps a thick cotton rope in the pulley, and so you crank it, and it slowly will ratchet a tree down. You can I would use usually a snatch block with this. We didn't do it this time. But you can basically, first what we did was we made the tree shorter by cutting the bottom off several times. So the canopy of the tree dropped a little in relation to the canopy of the other trees. And then we got a rope up around the top of it and yanked it out, and it stood up and then fell to the right, which is where I thought it would fall. My friends were like, oh, it's going to go over here. And I'm like, no. But they're not cheap. I will link to it in the show notes. It's a great tool if you have leaner trees and stuff that gets hung up. But a buddy of mine bought it because he has 200 acres he has to work on, and we trade tools a lot. So I borrowed it from him, and it was fantastic.
Okay. I'm having trouble. I saw it in the pictures in the video. It's different from the wired spool one in that it doesn't spool.
Correct.
Yeah, because with the wire spool one, you got maybe 10 foot of wire. When I was growing up, we called those calf pullers. You used them for helping birth calves. But this one, it actually drops down, so you can use almost an endless amount of rope, and you can get a really long pull and get out of the way of something.
Yeah, because we have it's my buddy Matt's thing, but he had 200 foot of rope. I got him to buy the 200 foot spool of rope, which costs more than the ratchet gizmo. But But what's great with that is you can position yourself a very safe distance from
Yeah.
what you're trying to pull down.
Well,
Because the
and you don't
trees
have
are
to.
60, 80 feet high. So,
Yeah, and you don't have to reset it. With the wire wrapped one, every when you reel it in 10 feet, then you have to back up and reset it and pull that
it's
wire out again, and then pull another 10 feet and reset it again. So that's actually a really nice item to have.
yeah, it's actually fairly hard to find. There's only one company that makes them, so I'll put it in the show notes here. But maybe you and your and friends want to, or neighbors want to pool your money, and each person put in $50 and buy the thing. It's such a when you need it, it's the perfect tool.
Right.
How's that?
Well, that's the secret to everything, isn't it? When having it when you need it.
And having friends that understand what you're doing. Because I worked with two of my really close friends who all are chainsaw savvy and tree felling savvy, and we work together instead of me trying to explain to someone, okay, hold this rope.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Oh,
It's a challenge. It's man versus or person versus nature, and that it wasn't big enough to log and make into furniture, but it makes good firewood. So,
right. Well, and it
and I
was
didn't
in the
have to cut
way.
into
Yeah,
firewood.
it was in the way. Got to get it
Yeah,
out of the way.
I thought
I'm
I
just
should make.
amazed that it was stuck that deep in the ground when it hit.
Oh, that it's a tremendous amount of weight,
Yeah, yeah.
and that even is the ground is frozen. Interestingly, so
Hmm.
boom.
Well, let me see what else. Oh, are we finished with your tree?
Sure, if you want to be.
Well, yeah.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
it's a that's a manly thing, using a
Yeah,
chainsaw and buzzing and then them making fun of you for wearing your goggles and your earmuffs and your mask
yeah,
and everything.
yeah.
uh, it's you wouldn't believe how quickly things can go badly. I had one go bad just the other day, and I wish that I'd been wearing a pair of gloves. Um, we're switching now to my topic, which is toilet talk. Um,
Should have a little audio blurb for that, a little music.
yeah, we are just the sound of a flush, we have a toilet that has been the bane of my life for 20 years. And so finally, I just got tired of it. And mostly what it does, because it's in the spare bathroom, so it doesn't bother us very much,
Yep.
but it embarrasses my visitors and relatives when they come almost every time. It just doesn't flush very well, and we uh, run the Hootis down it to unclog it and whatnot multiple times, and never found a problem. And in fact, we even had one of those camera companies come out, with the camera on. It's
Right.
like a roto rooter, but they run the camera down the length of the, and they
Yeah.
couldn't find anything. And I said, well, I'm just, this one's a shorter toilet. It's like a standard height. And
Hmm.
I said, we'll just replace it with a chair height one, an ADA height one,
Yes.
which is about 17 inches, which are quite comfortable actually. And so I did my research. I went to Consumers Report, which is my go-to thing for everything. You and I both believe in
Yeah.
trying to get some idea of what we're buying. And although there were some negative comments from unhappy individuals that had bought it, Consumer Report rated it really high, and I said, okay, we'll get it. And we bought the American Standard Champion 4 at a chair height. And this is one of those that they advertised a few years ago could flush golf balls.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'd have these ads and they'd pour a bucket full of balls into it and it'd flush them. And I said, okay, that'll do it. And we got it from the Blue Store, and they actually delivered it for free, and that was very nice of them.
Nice.
And it was easy to put in. These toilets are not. You get a new wax ring. Actually, I used a new kind of neoprene seal instead of a wax ring. I'm going to see how
I've
that
seen those.
works.
Yeah.
And because the wax rings are messy. And the first thing I noticed when I pulled this toilet, the old toilet, up, is that I I have been done in again, once again, by a do-it-yourselfer
Ah,
who apparently remodeled this house. We bought this house from a Navy SEAL. We have two kinds of Navy personnel in my neighborhood generally. We have SEALs and we have CBs. CB, it's like, capital C, capital B, construction battalion. In the
yep.
Navy, we call them CBs, SEABEE, and generally they've got some sort of motif of a bee with a machine gun and a little Dixie cup hat or something. If you've seen John Wayne and the Fighting Seabees, that
Yes.
was that business. And if you buy a house from a CB, these guys are construction engineers. They know how to build stuff and repair stuff and make stuff. And I have been absolutely amazed at the construction projects I've seen CBs do. Unfortunately, this house was repaired by a SEAL. And a SEAL's stock in trade is do it quick and get it over with, and get out.
Get out
And that
alive.
does, yeah, and that does not bode well for home repairs. And I have uncovered any number of problems in our other bathroom. Um, the previous tenant, my SEAL friend, uh, cut a joist to put a toilet in and
Uh,
didn't sister around it, and it probably the heaviest load bearing wall in the entire house because it's the on the other side of it is the kitchen with the refrigerator and the range and all that on that wall, and so I had to jack up the joist because it was sagging because everything was rolling around on the counters. It was so bad, and then sister it in. It took months to just a click, click, click because you don't want to jack it up too fast because then you'll start popping tile everywhere.
right.
And so it goes real slow. Took forever to do it, and then I sistered that in. Um,
Now,
well,
by sistering, we mean
go ahead. Yeah,
we're distributing the weight of that joist elsewhere,
right.
nearby.
Yeah, essentially, I kind of built a box around it to
Yep.
bear the weight, and so I bypassed that hole they cut in the joist, uh, and it was a PITY, but because it's really close under the house. But I got that done. So this toilet in the spare bathroom, the one we're talking about now, I pull it up, and there must have been 5 wax rings mushed down on that toilet,
Oh,
and
yes.
no one had ever pulled it up to examine what was going on. I should have done it. It's a messy job. It's not a bad job, but it's cumbersome. And not only that, the flange that the toilet bolts to was crooked. It was about maybe an inch and a half below the floor or below the tile on one side and a half inch on the
Wow.
other.
Ooh,
And there was the root of all my problems. And
that
so and then
explains the 5 wax rings.
yeah, exactly. And so I had to go under the house, cut it, put a new flange in, and glue it in,
So the
and
flange,
then
everyone, is the part where the flange is connected to the big 3 or 4 inch sewer pipe, and the toilet mates with the flange and becomes with the bolts, and that's becomes your toilet.
right when you have those two bolts coming up on either side of your toilet out of the
Yep.
floor, that's where the flange is hooking into them.
Yep.
And so I fixed that, and that took a day
Oh,
of
yeah.
tripping to the blue store and back for every little thing. And I tried out one of these new neoprene waxless rings, and we're going to see how that works instead of the wax rings on top. Mostly because you could stack them um, for a particular height and still have a funnel that goes down into the main sewer line. And so I fixed that. I put the bowl on top of the flange and locked it down good. And then it came time for the tank on the back. And it's not hard. I mean, you put the tank on and all the gears inside it and everything. It was beautifully engineered. And we hand tightened the bolts holding the tank on, and there was this sealant donut, kind of a
Yep.
compressible neoprene stuff. And when I finished, it leaked. It really didn't leak, it weeped. And I let it go for a couple of days thinking it'd go ahead and seed, but it never did. And
Uh,
so I went out in my frustration because I've been doing a hand tightening. They send you a tool to hand tighten these things. Um, and you can't put much leverage on it. And I'd lean on top of the bowl, and then she who must be obeyed would screw the bolts up to snug them up as tight as she could, um, so that there wouldn't have to be a lot of cranking with it. But I finally went out and got a socket, and I was actually talking to a service tech person. Her name's Lisa, very nice lady at American
at
Standard.
American Standard or Lowe's?
Yeah, no, at American Standard. And I was talking to her at the time, and she says, "Well, you need to hear the bowl and the tank, the bottom of the tank and the top of the bowl actually have ceramic on ceramic. It makes a very distinct noise." And
Yes.
so I'm cranking and cranking very slowly, quarter inch at a time. I put a level across the top of the tank so I could, just crank down half a bubble. Then I'd switch sides, crank down,
Yeah.
get it
Yeah.
even. Yeah. And I'm working it down and everything's going fine until I just over torqued it one little quarter turn too much.
Uh-oh.
And it shattered. And I had no idea how um, sharp shattered ceramic can be, and it
So the
sliced
tank
through.
shattered and basically in front of you.
Yeah, and not only was it gushing water, I was gushing blood. Um,
Yeah.
it shattered in front of me. It fell across my hand, and I've got a hand and some stitches and whatnot, and uh, and both hands were actually cut up pretty good, just trying to get out of the way of all that stuff as it came loose. And as we're doing all this, Lisa says, "No problem. You are completely covered here." And I didn't realize this. Now, Lowe's won't tell you this, but American Standard will cover any damage. If you break their product while you're installing it and you're a homeowner, just call. And
Wow.
2 days later, the new tank arrived.
That's fast.
Yeah. And she says, "We will help cover your costs because I need some stitches." And I said, "No, we're Navy. I'll just go. You've already paid."
Yeah.
Essentially, I'll just run to the Naval Hospital and get them to stitch it up. And so, but I thought she says, "Now where the bowl seats, it sounds like there might be a problem. Reach around in there. Do you feel a little nub or anything sticking up that was keeping that donut from seating properly?" And I said, "Oh, there is kind of a little spot here." She says, "No problem. I'll ship you an entire new toilet." And
Yes.
like 2, 3 days later, it arrived. So don't. Sometimes your best recourse is not to deal with the people in the blue or the orange store, but it's just to call their service reps and be nice to them and see what they'll help you do. But particularly since she was on the phone, I think she felt a little beholden or something. But it was a
No.
good experience all the way around. And the new one, everything went on perfectly, and it turned out great.
Hey, real quick, one easy way to support Garden Fork is if you're going to shop online and use Amazon, please use the link to our storefront. The link is in the show notes here. If you click on that, it'll open it up in your web browser. If you're on a laptop or desktop, it will open it up into your app, ideally if you're using the Amazon mobile app. Please shop locally. I go to my local hardware store first. If I can't find it there, then I go to the orange or blue store. If I can't find it there, then I order it online. All right? Try it. Ugh, I just mucked that all up. So if you are shopping online, use our Amazon link, amazon.com/shop/gardenfork. The link is also in the show notes. Thank you. Well, I have a couple thoughts there. I have almost broken several tanks, and to the point that I sometimes have left them so they wobble a little bit because I'm like, okay, it's not leaking, and I don't want to crack the bowl. Because what you're doing is using brass or metal bolts between two pieces of porcelain and trying to get them to come together. But you can go that quarter turn too far, and then the steel or brass will win out over porcelain. But the fact that, first of all, you bought a name brand rather than a contractor grade toilet. Like, there are the cheapest toilets in any store are what are called contractor grade. They're kind of generic. They might have some fancy name, but they're not like Kohler or American Standard or someone like that, or Gerber. And they don't have an 800 number. You're just kind of like, oh, you broke it. Well, that's your fault. You broke it while you installed it. The other thing is American Standard it's much cheaper to send you a new toilet and pay for your stitches than it is to deal with an angry man on Twitter or TikTok or YouTube going, I've bloodied my hand putting this toilet together. Don't buy one.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're talking them up on my, fabulous podcast that millions of people listen to.
But, I thought it was just exceptional customer service for a $189 product.
Yeah.
I mean, that's above and beyond, really. And the fact that she was willing to talk to me while I was cranking it down, she says, I'll be able to hear it. I've done this so many times. I'll know what that sound is. And that's when you stop. And then all she heard was a very long string of sailor talk as that came apart in my hand.
I bet they have that recorded.
Maybe so. In fact, later that afternoon, after I got back from the clinic, get my hand stitched up, I called her and apologized. And that probably went some ways to getting things smoothed over too. Never beat up on the person on the phone. They do not run the company. They do not have any authority. They're just poor old wage slaves, and they can either make or break you when it comes to these kind of things. Yeah. Just being a decent human being to somebody it will get you as much as they're possibly able to provide for you.
Karma is boomerang,
That's right.
There's oftentimes when I'm calling for customer service, there's a little recording that says, after your call, would you mind participating in a 30-second survey? And you can hit, 1 or 0 for yes. I can't remember. But I always say sure. And sometimes the person helping you would say, there'll be a short survey afterward if you'd like to participate. And if the person has been helpful, I give them the highest number you can, because their retainment, whether they're going to get laid off with the first, the people that are getting laid off, or whether they're going to keep their job, or they get a vacation day or a raise, is so much based on how well they performed. And for a customer to rate them instead of their manager is a huge deal. So, I always help as much as I can.
That's the way to be. Like you say, karma is boomerang. Or boomerang is karma. Or it comes back to bite you. Something like that. I forget how it goes. Anyway.
Well, what goes around comes around,
That's it. Yeah.
It might take 20 or 30 years, but I have seen that happen. I really have seen that happen, where it's like someone has done something wrong, and then I've known them 20 years, and I go, oh, this is why this is happening, because that thing you did 20 years ago.
Well, what else
Well,
is new?
we've
Anyway, that is my story. Oh, the moral of my story, other than be nice to tech people when you call them or customer service people, is even when you think you're perfectly safe, wear gloves. If I'd
yes,
had on my leather palmed gloves when this happened, probably I would have been unscathed. And you just never know when everything's going to come apart in your hand, and rather explosively, really.
yes,
So yeah, be be smart when you do stuff like that. Pair of gloves, it's easy to wear, easy to slip on, and that includes if you're chainsawing, get those vests or those chaps out, and the helmet and the face mask, and put
and
on
your
the
steel-toed
gloves
boots.
and your steel-toed boots.
I have
Have you
drop
seen?
clogs on my feet.
Oh yeah, um, they're making now like a tennis shoe. I call them tennis shoes, running shoe, whatever, athletic shoe that has a carbon fiber toe.
Hmm.
And so it's as strong as steel, and it has a carbon fiber shank, and it's made for people on job sites.
Yep.
Uh, Carbon fiber shank, carbon fiber toe protection. So if you step on a nail or something, it won't go through, and if you drop a tree on your toes, it won't crush them. And I'm beginning to think that's a really great idea.
It's in my future.
Yeah.
Well, talking about all these accidents and nails in your foot, I wanted to touch on blood donation for a minute. We're longtime listeners know I'm a big advocate of, if you are able to do it, to consider donating blood. I done 22 pints now at the Red Cross, plus also what I do at the hospital. And I was up for renewal. You can do it every 59 days, and I was past that. And so I was up at the little house, and I went on redcrossblood.org. I typed in the zip code, and it showed me what blood drives were nearby. And it was at a church the next, it's like 3 days out, because I think you need to hydrate as much as you can for 2 or 3 days before you get blood. At least it's my experience. And so I went, and I know I'm O negative, which is only 7% of the country has it, 15 or 7. Anyway, it's a universal blood. Anyone can take my blood. I cannot take anyone else's blood except another O negative donor. So, but and a couple times when they've been taking my blood, the various phlebotomists had said, "Oh, you've got the golden blood." And I'm like, oh, okay, or like, oh, your blood's going to a special place. And I'm like, oh, okay. And one phlebotomist said, oh, this is for the babies. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't really ask, because, I just want the donation to be done and go have cookies.
You're in it for the cookies.
So the phlebotomist that was working with me at my last one, and there was a good crew, just people, everyone was happy. It was really nice. And she said, oh, you have CMV negative blood and you're O negative. She said, your blood is going to the NICU right away.
Oh
And I'm like,
wow.
what? She goes, your blood goes into a special bag and it goes to the neonatal intensive care unit right away. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I didn't really know what that meant. So I looked it up on the Red Cross site. And CMV is a cytomegalovirus, which is a common flu-like virus that 85% of U.S. adults have been exposed to. And long story short, infants that need blood should not ideally get blood that has the person's been exposed to this virus. So I have O negative blood and I'm CMV negative. So that is the best blood to give to babies at an intensive care unit, which kind of floored me.
Yeah,
So,
no kidding.
and I'm not saying that everyone is that unique, but all blood is needed. So if you're thinking of a way that you want to help the world, I mean, in January, everyone kind of thinks about that, and it's a real easy way. Not everyone can give blood. They have some rules about just past diseases that have gone through different people. Like if you've lived in England certain years, you can't give blood because of the that brain tissue disease was there, prion, things.
Right, the
Uh,
prion things, yeah.
and but anyway, you answer a bunch of questions first, and you can do that online. But your blood is used in all sorts of ways. They're called blood products because they can strip out the red blood cells. They can use the plasma for something else, and all of it's needed. And people are donating less and less now because there are fewer people at offices. And it used to be that the blood drive could be in the cafeteria one day every 3 months, and people would just stop by and donate blood. And now that people are working from home, they don't have that kind of thing. So just something to think about. I get very excited about it because I'm not really good at doing a lot of stuff, but at least I can remember to hydrate for 3 days and then not have any caffeine before you donate that day, and then just go, okay, here you go. And then
Why
you get to
can't
have
you have
cookies afterward.
caffeine? Why can't you have
It
caffeine?
it constricts your blood vessels.
Ah, okay.
Some people
That
can have
makes sense.
caffeine and donate, but I can't. Like, there was once I was going to donate. My donation appointment was in the afternoon, so I met a friend for lunch, and I had a Diet Coke, which I rarely have,
Mm-hmm.
and that then I couldn't get a needle into my vein because the Diet Coke, because I'm really sensitive to caffeine. So,
Apparently.
but if that's all you have to do, then what the heck?
Oh,
Am
well.
I? Is that enough of a? What would
I'm
that be
proud
called?
of you, Eric. I'm proud of you. I wanted to talk about something else. We haven't talked about electric cars in a while. And since the world seems to be going into hell in a handbasket around us between snowmageddons and poor California out there and the hurricanes coming and the just everything that's happening, all the disasters. For my birthday, which was the 31st of December, you did not send me anything, but I'm not holding it against you.
I'm sorry, Rick. I'm not
Yeah,
big on birthdays.
yeah, well, neither am I anymore. But she who must be obeyed asked me what I wanted, and I wanted to get this product called a plug out power. PLUGOUT POWER. They have a website with that name. And it connects to your Prius traction battery, and it puts a plug on it, 220 plug that goes, or actually a DC plug that goes out to a 4 kilowatt inverter
Oh,
that you can then run to your house. And the way the Prius works, essentially the engine is just a big generator to generate
yep.
power to put in the battery. And so whenever your battery goes down, the engine kicks on, and when the battery gets up enough, it kicks off. Because of that, the way this works, this unit will power my house at 4 kilowatts for 6 days.
So 4 kilowatts is 40 watts, basically.
4,000. Yeah. No, 40 watts,
4,000
I
watts.
guess.
So
Yeah.
40.
4,000. Yep.
So yeah, you can run all sorts of stuff there. You probably can't run a whole house air conditioning system, but
Right.
that is phenomenal. That's kind of like why people are excited about the F-150 Lightning, is that the
Right.
TV commercial showing you plugging it into your house and all the lights go on. But
Hmm.
that is brilliant. And then when your battery starts to go down, you could just turn the gas motor on in your Prius and power the thing back up again.
Well, but the gas motor does it automatically. If you just leave your car on, it will switch in and out and switch the motor on automatically to charge the battery and then shut the engine off. But your car will still be on.
Is
And so
that 4 kilowatts at 240 volt or 220 volt?
it's 4 kilowatts. I need to check that out. I think it's at 220.
That's really good. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And it was $1,500, about twice the price of a gasoline powered generator.
General.
But geez, I mean, just to have that kind of option. Plus, you're essentially driving it. You have to remember to throw the inverter into the back of the car because it sits outside your car
Right.
when you're using it. But just adding this plug, it cost me about $300 to have a high voltage technician install it, because you don't fool with that stuff if you don't know what you're doing.
Right, right.
It will run a current through you that you'll fry your eyeballs, I think. So, I have to had to be careful about that. But it works really well so far. I haven't tested it out to see, but as long as I keep gas in the car, it will keep generating for the house. And it's portable. So if you go someplace, you can set this up and run a campsite off of it, a work site, a job site, something like that. Pretty
Oh,
impressive.
that's brilliant.
Yeah,
I bet you'll see that coming out for more electric cars.
I'm sure. I've often thought about how do I get to the power in that battery, and use it for something. But this came along. It was just the perfect solution. It's just plug and play. And then from your inverter, you can go to battery chargers to charge a bank of batteries, or you can go directly into your house.
Wow.
And then,
Cool.
yeah, mine is set up. My house is set up. I rewired a big piece of it so that um, the battery or the battery or the generator circuit just includes my master bedroom and some of the kitchen plugs and all the entertainment plugs. And so Wi-Fi and Verizon FiOS, and all that stay up. And then I have a portable window mount heat pump, so both air conditioning and cooling. And so I can put that in the window and
Of the
draw
bedroom.
the bedroom and draw just very little energy with it, and supply just those rooms of the house, and not
Perfect.
try to power the entire house and the hot water heater and all that other stuff.
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, I love
So
that idea.
yeah, it takes a little thinking and planning to rewire things like that, but it make it simple for yourself. Just do the things you have to do. Plus, you burn a lot less energy if you do that way.
Yeah, if people are thinking about this, they can use a manual transfer switch or what's called a generator interlock on their main panel. Um, I switched from a transfer switch to a interlock because it allows you to pick and choose what's part of the house you want to power, and if you decide you want to power another part of the house, you can turn off some rooms and turn on the others without taxing your generator or your plug out power running on your
Right.
Prius there. Wow,
Well,
neat.
I have the interlock panel, and I'm pretty happy with it. So I'll just let it be like that for a while.
Yeah. Wow, we
Okay.
filled out some time. I hope my new patron Dean is happy that Rick has been on and talked for 37 minutes.
Talking about cutting himself and blood going everywhere, and everyone's just thrilled. Why can't he go ahead and die?
Well, no, you got to stick around because our after show for the patrons is going to be about my experience with the GoPro clone camera I bought, and it wasn't fun. So I can
Mm,
yammer about that for a little bit for our patrons.
okay.
If
Well,
you're interested,
then,
wait, let me
what?
give the plug for the patron thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Dean, this is why I don't have him on too often. If you're interested in becoming a supporter of the show, I post interesting photos and links to videos I like and stuff, and just kind of slice of life stuff during the week. And I'm asking for a cup of coffee a month for that. More information below about that, the link to the Patreon page and all that. But anyway,
Wah, 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 wah.
if
Go ahead.
I'd love to hear from you. Radio at gardenfork.tv. Love to hear from you. Thank you and make it a great day. Garden Fork Radio is produced by Garden Fork Media LLC in Brooklyn, New York. Our producer is Sean O'Neill. If you need an amazing podcast producer, visit Sean's site, SeanInBrooklyn.com. That's Sean, SEAN, in Brooklyn.com. Our executive producer is Jimmy Goose. For more information about Jimmy and the custom hollow books he makes, visit hollowbooks.com. The music in the show is licensed from audioblocks.com and uniquetracks.com.